All right, so we're talking about the difference between two things that come up in conversation very often. High impact mine, which is a support gem that turns your skill into a mine. And then we were talking about the other one as well, which is Blastchain, which does the same thing. Turns your spell or your ranged attack into a mine, right? So what's the difference between these two support gems? And why do I like one of them more than the other one? And why do people use either in different scenarios? It's like, what do these things do? High impact mine and Blastchain mine. So we can look at this real quick. Let's pull it up on the wiki so we know exactly what we're talking about. We're gonna do Blastchain mine first. Pardon how many tabs I have open. So Blastchain mine. It's 25% less damage, 5% more damage for each mine in sequence. So we're gonna go ahead and write that down, okay? 25% less damage just for having this thing supported. And then 5% more. It says 5% more damage for each mine, each prior mine in detonation sequence. I'm gonna say in sequence. So that means that if you have two mines like this, the first one's gonna detonate and have 25% less damage from up here. And the second one is going to have 25% less because it's not additive, it's multiplicative. 25% less, and then times 5% more, right? And the third one here, it would have the same 25% less. Again, because they're multiplicative, not additive, so I can't quite make it just a simple math equation. 25% less, and then for each, right? So 5% more, and then 5% more. I'm put an M right here. So like each mine in sequence, if you're throwing out a whole bunch of mines, they're gonna pop, 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 and then like the last one is gonna be much more damage than the previous one, right? All right, so that's what Blastchain mine does. Nothing much else matters here for us. Let's take a look at the other one instead. Let's go to high impact mine. Let's read it first so we know exactly what we're talking about. 20% less damage, because we're going to compare it straight over like this. 20. So the damage penalty is smaller. And this text is different. So each mine from supported skills applies a 2% chance to deal double damage with hits against enemies near it. This is in sequence. So over here, I'm going to write this in red. High impact mine does not care about things being in sequence. And then each mine that's placed is a 2% chance to deal double damage with hits against enemies near it. So 2%. And this is kind of, if you think about it a little bit, it's kind of like 2% more damage. Because 100% more damage represents double damage, which is like, right? So what's going on here, right? If we place down our three mines from before, the first one has the big damage penalty on it, and the second one does a little bit more damage, and the third one does a little bit more damage, right? That's what happened when we had Blastchain support. If we talk about high impact support instead, let's say that we're putting down three mines like this. So what's going to happen? The first mine, when it detonates, it's going to have each mine supported skills, 2% chance to have double damage against it. All right. So when it detonates, we're going to have an aura from these other two, right? So this one's going to have a little mini aura, and this one's going to have a mini aura, but this one exploded already. So the first mine that detonates will have 20% less damage. And then it'll have a 4% chance for double damage. And then the second mine that detonates will have a the same 20% less damage multiplier from above, because we're still preserving that here, right? For the sake of comparison. 20% less, and then times, multiply, and then 2%, because then when the second one's detonating, only that third one is still there. Be 2% chance for double damage, right? Yeah, so that's roughly speaking what these gems are doing. And in practice, what does this mean? My tongue-in-cheek response for like what is the use case for Blastchain mine? I think it's good for making a YouTube video about how much damage your build does and you want to one-shot stuff. Now that said, it's going to deal like, it's going to deal like 100 damage or like, a million or whatever. It's like 100 damage and then like 110 damage, right? And then like 130 damage, then like 160 damage, right? So like, it's going to ramp up and it's going to look like a lot of damage, and that's Listen, I kind of make fun of Blastchain Mine, but that's kind of what it does, right? It's good against bosses. It's good when you get to pre-lay all of your mines and then detonate them in one long blast chain, right? Because like all of your damage from blast chain, what you're paying for with this additional penalty here is like you put down one long blast chain. Maybe the boss does some dialogue first while it's preparing for the beginning of the boss fight, and then while that's happening, you're placing down all your mines, and then you click detonate, and they all blow up, right? So that's kind of the use case for Blastchain. As a less tongue-in-cheek answer for Blastchain, what does it do? Well, it's used on Tremor Rod. Because it's used on Tremor Rod, it's kind of the reason why I very often tell people, don't use Tremor Rod. I don't think it's good. It's a 7 link, sure, but like it makes you use Blastchain, and I'd just rather not do that. I would rather have a shield, or I'd rather like be dual-wielding wands, or dual-wielding maces, or something along those lines. And specifically, in addition to that, I'd rather not be using Blastchain. So let's see if we can grab ourselves some extra room down here, make this a little bit bigger, and see like, okay, what is the use case for high impact mine instead? So we said that with Blastchain, your damage is going to look like 100, and then it's going to go up a little bit by 10, and then it's going to go up by 20, like 130, and then it'll go up a little bit more, maybe by 30. So like it'll be like your damage is going to look like this. It's your first mine that detonates, second one, third one, fourth one, right? If they're in a Blastchain sequence. So in high impact instead, what's it going to look like? So the damage happens sooner because of this, right? See how this is the opposite of this? This says that for however many mines you have, the highest chunk of your damage is happening sooner in the sequence as opposed to happening later in the sequence, right? So like your damage is going to look like, let's say 200, and then it'll have like a smaller chance for double damage. So like maybe it whiffs on the double damage. Maybe it goes down to like 100 or something, and maybe it hits on the double damage after that. Maybe it looks like something like this. So the chance for double damage as opposed to the more damage is a trade-off, right? Because more damage is something that's going to be calculated no matter what. And the chance for double damage is it's a chance. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't happen, right? So like it's not strictly speaking just better, but that's what your damage might look like, right? So like it's going to hit on one of them and it's going to miss on a different one. But your damage multiplier is smaller, which is great. One of the other important things to point out as the difference between these two things, I'm going to grab a different color real quick. Maybe lime green, sure. Is let's say you're playing a mine that's a damage over time. So let's say you're playing something like maybe Exsanguinate Mines for some reason. Or maybe as a better example, what about Toxic Rain Mines, right? So for Toxic Rain Mines, damage over time cannot deal double damage like this, right? So because damage over time cannot double, using something like high impact makes no sense because you benefit in no way whatsoever. With Blastchain, however, damage over time can deal more damage, right? Because it's just like another more multiplier. So if you're using a damage over time kind of spell, or like an attack like, what did I just say? Toxic Rain Mines, then Blastchain Mine makes more sense, right? Because it cannot do this, but it can do more, right? So that's the different use cases for these two things. Why do I like high impact mine more? I like high impact mine more because the less damage multiplier is small. In practice, when I'm playing one of these miners, I have detonate on left click. And when I detonate on left click, it means that I'm not really taking advantage of the sequence. You could try to, but it doesn't really work out in practice. So because I put detonate on left click, it makes more sense for me to not rely on blast chains and instead just rely on high impact mine. So here's reason number 1 that I like high impact mine. Here's reason number 2 that I like high impact mine. And reason number 3 is, well, what if you're using minefield support? Sorry, minefield with a question mark next to it. Dude. What if you're using minefield support? So minefield support does something important for both of these, and I'm going to hover back over it real quick on the wiki page. So minefield support, it says supported skills have 60% less mine throwing speed, right? So when you have minefield, it's kind of like a lazy playstyle. not like lazy, but like it's always going to be enough damage, and it's going to be way too much damage because you're going to deal like way too much damage. I said damage a lot. Minefield's use case, when you're clearing maps, it slows you down because it gives you this. It gives you less mine throwing speed, and you're going to be in like that stuttering animation, throwing multiple mines, and you don't need that much damage. It causes you to always take advantage of this in sequence thing because you always have, 5 mines down at a time, which means your damage is always going to look good, but you don't need that much damage in order to clear maps. So like when you don't need the damage, it slows you down. And when you do need the damage, versus like, let's say a boss, you'd rather not be stuck in the animation, the stuttery animation of throwing down multiple mines using minefield support. You'd rather just like have more mobility and be able to like move around or dodge stuff. There are people who use Tremorod all the time. There's people who use Tremorod on every single League Star build that they've ever played. It's fine, I suppose. Like it works. It gives you a 7 link. It allows you to have like a simple thing that you can grab and you know exactly how much damage your build's going to do. And you can kind of work around that as a unique item that you're just relying on, right? Tremorod is not particularly difficult to beat. Anything that has like +1 on it, specifically now that we even have a +1 recipe in the game, you can just get +1 fizz or +1 spells or +1 whatever using the GCP recipe that just got introduced during this league ultimatum. That, or relying on any kind of well-rolled rare that comes from heist, or that comes from maybe like a temple weapon from incursion, or maybe something that you found in delve, or maybe something that comes from whatever the current league mechanic is. There's a lot of ways that you can beat Tremorod, and then you don't get stuck using Blastchain. I think that about covers what my thoughts are. Sound good? Excellent. All right. If I missed anything, you can like leave comments here or come visit on Twitch. It's all good. But yeah, I think this about sums up the difference, in my opinion, between these two support gems and why I greatly prefer using one of them or the other one.